I saw Rick Beato post a video this past week, actually, kind of posing the question, like, is metal music dying? And in that video, surprisingly, he kind of categorized metal bands in a few different categories of like legacy acts, kind of modern metal music. I don't remember what the other one was. In the modern metal, our band was in the top 10 monthly listeners of like all modern metal music today. And he kind of compared this with the idea of like the Linkin Parks of the world, the Korn, even like Limp Bizkit, right? Where Linkin Park, I think, has like 50 million monthly listeners compared to kind of where things are at more now. Even like on the top of modern metal would be like Bring Me, right? Which is like a tenth of that. I thought it was an interesting question because in my mind, I'm actually viewing it as like rock and metal, like on the rise. And he kind of framed it as like, is it dying? I'm curious, like what your perspective is.
Yeah. I think that you're going to see a lower ceiling for a lot of bands now. Like think about how mainstream Linkin Park is, right? Like sometimes like you're tricked into thinking Linkin Park's a band like us.
Yeah.
You know, like it's easy to just think that, I don't know, they kind of have a vibe we can understand and they're kind of like in the same universe. But it's easy to forget that like we can go, so both of our wives who don't really like rock or metal music, we could be like, do you know who Linkin Park is? And they'll say, obviously.
Yeah.
Like just that value right there alone. That level of mainstream, I think you're going to see much less to almost none of that. But I think there's going to be a lot more major players, if that makes sense. Like it's easier to make music than it was, 20, 30 years ago. So you're going to have a lot more like capable artists making music in their bedroom when they never otherwise would have gotten a shot to go get into a multi-million-dollar studio with a high-level producer.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more music being made and you can market it yourself much more easier, much more easily than ever before. So I think you're going to see bands with like a lot more bands with real careers and real fan bases than you did in the past, if that makes sense. So like probably the same like total impact of the genre, but just spread out over more bands.
Yeah. Which is great news for a lot of people because everyone can kind of toss their hat into a ring where Linkin Park, for the past 20 years felt like an impossibility. It's just like this anomaly of a band that like shoots up. But now it seemingly everyone has a shot to make some sort of career off of music, whether that's through streaming, blah, 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 blah. But with it getting wider as opposed to like deeper, of like there's now more artists as opposed to fewer massive artists. As a band our size, we kind of start to think, well, how can we get more like market share? How can we get bigger as the artists like get wider? How do you start to think about that of like, yes, there's more people flooding in, but how can I continually like rise above to maintain relevance and growth over a long period of time?
I don't think there's any special answer outside of make songs that connect, like I'm sure that there are things that we could do that would like optimize whatever would be better in the marketing area or could be like incremental improvements in how we do what we do. But I'm not sure anything really moves the needle other than songs that massively connect, know? I know we've talked about this before. Like, is there anything we can look at in like the operation, in the Prevail operation that is like low hanging fruit to just do much better? And I think it just, when I really sit down and think about it, it all comes back to, kind of like back to the first question, like the first fundamental is like songs. And when you have songs that are connecting and doing well, everything's easy, right? Like every piece of content you make just does a little better. Every piece of merch you make just sells a little better. Tickets move faster. Like
and when you're thinking about like what actually makes a song a hit or like connect, because now over your career you've had multiple songs, I'm sure, like plenty of songs where you're like, this one's going to connect and it doesn't. And then other ones where you maybe didn't expect to connect. You didn't expect it to connect, but it does. Do you find that there are any like through lines of what helps songs connect with people as opposed to what doesn't.
Yeah, almost no through lines other than the more authentic, the better. Because we've had songs that we've written in almost in completion in less than 24 hours that have just been like super easy
Yeah.
and almost felt like divine intervention to write something like that have done really well. And we've had songs take literally probably 2 months of just grinding, deleting, rewriting. Like Bow Down was like that. It was like an endless overthinking and just tearing it down to build it back up. And the instinct would be to be like, well, there can't be anything that special about this if it's that hard. But I've had that be proven wrong with some of our biggest songs, where a song like Violent Nature we wrote in literally less than 1 day.
Yeah.
And was like the most recent thing we've had that's connected the biggest, So like, I think that it can be, but as long as you're in in an honest search of authenticity and true expression of whatever it is that you're trying to do, like I think that would be the through line of like the same of the compass that I can see that you should be following.